What it do, what it do, what it do, man. Happy Monday. It is your boy P Way here back with another episode of Inside P Town, your one-stop shop for everything Carolina Panthers. It is June 2nd, 2025. This year is flying by. Although that is scary, it's good to know because hey, football is almost here. Football is almost back. So hey, I'm definitely excited. I've been away for a couple of weeks due to some training. As you can see with this brownish green shirt I have on, yes, I am an active member in the military. So on that note, happy belated Memorial Day to all the vets who have sacrificed their time and lives, for this country and for our families. So salute to you. Now, we have been through week one of OTAs, Panther Nation, and we're excited. We're absolutely excited. It's always good to see the clips. This is the year when people start, you know, getting really excited and over analyzing. And this is the year where every team is going to the Super Bowl because you're looking at clips of your team and you're so excited. And we are in that time frame right now is OTAs. The rookies are now with the vets. It's organized team activities. They're together. They're going through drills together, installing the playbook together, and it's an exciting time for us. So here are my top takeaways today. I want to go over my top takeaways from OTAs. These are some things that I've noticed just from interviews, from the drills, from news, from the staff itself. These are some things I've noticed out of OTA that I want us to pay attention to because I feel like this is going to grow into some other things as time goes on. So let's go ahead and get right to it. All right, my top takeaways from week one of OTAs. Number one, this is Bryce Young's breakout year. This is it. We have finally arrived to where Bryce Young should be having that year that really makes a statement. This is the year where, us as fans of the Panthers should now be able to go around and brag about our quarterback. You know, this is the time where we should be able to talk our stuff, especially in the NFC South. We should be able to make heavy, heavy noise because Bryce Young should be having his breakout year. He's been through his rookie year. I really don't count his rookie year that much because hey, he was getting pressured like crazy. It was hard to really analyze, anything of his talent that year. It was just absolutely bad. He was in a horrible situation. So I think last year was more like his rookie year, and this is the sophomore year in his year three. I think this is the year where you can see with his quote here. He said they're trying to do whatever it takes to win, and you really see that culture shift. Which started with his play. Really taking that next leap last year, and that is coming into OTAs. Xavier Leggett even talked about it. Chuba Hubbard has talked about it. Dave Canales has talked about it. They have noticed that confidence and that fire is lit. And he has carried that from last season right now here into OTAs. So now with that, in the addition of Tetoric McMillan, in the addition of Hunter Renfro, Jimmy Horn Jr., Dowdle in the backfield, all these additions, this is pointing to Bryce Young having his best year to date. And it's exciting to know that your quarterback is having such an outlook. So that is my number one takeaway is Bryce Young should be, doing something we're very proud of this year. Number two, Ted Terrell McMillan. I'm gonna try to start referring to him as Nola. That is his preferred nickname. He doesn't want to go by T Mac, even though his name makes it very hard not to say T Mac. So Nola, Tectora McMillan is better than advertised. There were a lot of talks coming to the draft, talking about his speed, talking about, his ability to create separation. And what we saw in just a couple of clips in OTAs, his speed is not a problem. That is definitely not an issue. I think he runs like a 4.5 40. He seems to run. I'll compare him to like a Devonte Adams. He has that sneaky speed. He's very very fluid, and all that was just baloney, just pre-draft, over analysis. When it comes to T Mac, his PF grade was absolutely outstanding. I think it was like a 98 point something to where He was definitely the best receiver in college the last 2 years. So um, T Mac is better than advertised. 6'5", and the way that he can move is just absolutely outstanding. And I'm looking for him to have an immediate impact on this team, and it's just very exciting. So number two, T Mac is better than advertised. Number three, Xavier Leggett was not happy with rookie year, and that is something that I know that we are aware of and fans are aware of because, I see the talks, especially on Twitter. We have been going absolutely really hard on Xavier Leggett, especially with those drops. And, I kind of understand it. And, I understand that he had a disappointing rookie year, but there were flashes to why he was picked in our first round of last year. And I think this year is the year we really bring out the best in him. I'm really putting pressure on Dave Canales and our offensive staff to run plays that favor to his play style. When you look at his tape back at South Carolina, you will notice that he ran a lot of intermediate routes, a lot of drag routes, things that allow him to show off that yard after catch ability. And I feel like last year we didn't really cater to his skill set, more go routes and stuff of that nature. Now he did have some uptake in those routes and later in the season where he started dropping the ball. But I want to see him be more involved on stuff that really caters to his style. And we already seen out of OTAs, one of the biggest plays they said in OTAs so far has been a drag route from Xavier Leggett. And that's what you want to do. Get him moving, with that size and speed, get him moving so he can catch and go. So I like that they're already paying attention to that. And also, Xavier Leggett himself said that it was a mindset thing. And a lot of times that's what it is in the NFL. People look at skill, and even like with Jonathan Mingo last year, it's a mental game, man. These athletes get to this level, it's all mental at this point. All of them have a good level of skill, but it's about who can separate themselves in their minds. And Xavier Leggett struggled with his confidence last year. He was really, really hard on himself. And that's a good thing. I look at that as a good thing. That shows me that he is competitive, and that shows me that he is highly aware of his lack of production last year. So he has vowed that he wants to have a much better year. Sometimes you hear athletes say things like, "Oh yeah," they make excuses, or they say that the year wasn't that as bad as people think or never. No, he came out and saying that year was bad. He didn't like it. He has so much more that he could have done out there. So I like that he's very aware and accountable, and he's ready to work. So that is my takeaway number three. Number four, Shao Smith Wade and Damani Richardson look to take the next step. And these are the key factors on our roster that we need to start paying more attention to. Everyone wants to look at the bigger names all the time. That's great. I understand. Yes, the big name players have to play. JC Horn has to lock down, right? Bryce Young has to step up. Chuba Hubbard has to do his thing in the backfield. Derek Brown has to do his thing in the interior. But when it comes to football, guys, you have to start paying attention to every aspect of the team. And what's going to separate us from really furthering ourselves and doing better this year are stepping up in positions like our nickel corner, are stepping up in positions as in our free safety, and paying attention to the other nuances of this team. So Charles Smith Wade and Damani Richardson both have some early success in OTAs and had some interceptions, which is just great to hear, because our defense definitely needs more turnovers this year. That's something that we have lacked in our defensive system. So just to hear that these two are the playmakers, think about it. We're not talking about Mike Jackson making a pick. We're not talking about JC making a pick. We're talking about Damani Richardson and Shao Smith Wade. So if these guys elevate, it's only going to push our defense, so much further. So I love to hear this, and I'm hoping, I hear this more. Now I prefer if they're, catching interceptions from Plummer and not from Bryce Young. But hey, if Bryce Young is throwing them picks because they're making plays, I'm all for it. Because our defense was last year, was absolutely last. So I'm loving that we are seeing this production from Shao Smith Wade and Damani Richardson, and I hope they keep it up. All right, so number five, the defense will be noticeably better this year. And I repeat, noticeably better this year. I mean, we should not be able to recognize our defense from last year. We should see a complete different defense. I love the additions in the draft from our two outside linebackers and Princely and Scorton. And I love that they're actually in the film room. I believe Scorton has been partnered with Pat Jones, and Princely has been partnered with DJ Wanham. So they're getting that one-on-one veteran mentorship, and that's really good to hear that our staff and especially our defensive coordinator Evero is really paying attention to making sure that they are being developed the right way and they're ready to play on day one. And I love that four-man rotation up front. We should see them do much better against the run and setting that edge, but also creating pressure on opposing quarterbacks. This is a pressure year for Evero, because this roster is completely different. We brought in what Rose Boom as a linebacker, my boy Ransom. We drafted the safety. We have Wharton, Bobby Brown, Derek Brown coming back. I just talked about the four outside linebackers. So this is a complete different defense as far as our roster and the productivity that they've had in the league and what they can do. So I really feel like Evero, this should be a night and day difference. This team was rated number 32 in the league. And that's bad because there's only 32 teams in the league. So I would like to see our defense easily. We have to jump into that at least that top 20, at least that top 20. I think we have the roster to do that this year. So it's on Evero to really come up, with the right plays. And one thing I want him to do better this year is just make adjustments. Sometimes I feel like in our game plan, we didn't make adjustments. We were really exposed. I think it was versus the Cowboys last year where CD Lamb just absolutely killed us because we never adjusted. He was just running like wide receiver screens and wide receiver reverses because our quarters played so far back that all that stuff was just available to him. So I want to see our defense make more adjustments this year. And, that could have been due to the fact that there wasn't a lot of adjustments we could make because of our roster and our talent level. And he didn't want to put, our defenders in really, really bad positions. But, this is the year where our defense should be much, much better. And that's what, we're used to as Panther Nation. When our defense is really clicking like that, we are a complete different team, especially on the offensive side. We want to run the ball. And when we have a solid defense, it's just going to make our team get better. So that is takeaway number five. And number six, everybody loves Renfro and Horn Jr. Everybody. Everybody, I've not heard one bad thing. Nobody's talking about the fact that Renfro's coming back from a layoff. Nobody's talking about Horn Jr. being undersized or anything of that nature. Everyone loves Renfro and Horn Jr. from the players, from the media, from the staff, from the fans. We are all excited, and they're really backing up why they were added to this team. We chose to give Renfro a shot, and man, I'm looking at his routes and what he's running the OTAs. Now, I do want to put this out there. The disclaimer, guys, stop overhyping OTAs. We have to stop doing that. If you go around the league, you're going to see every fan base looking at their team like, oh my gosh, look at this pick. We got a steal. He looks great. Everybody's doing that right now, okay? And we're not different from anybody else in that nature. But it does look good out there. Hunter Renfro has been very savvy, and when you hear your coaches talking about it, that's when you know it's really doing something. Um, the coaches have talked about the way he run his routes is just very, very impressive. And they're also talking about Jimmy Horn Jr. They say it's a clear difference when you see Jimmy Horn Jr. on that field. There's a clear difference in his acceleration and speed from almost anybody else. But even reports have came out. One of the reporters said that, man, I haven't seen speed like this out of the Panthers for probably a couple years now. And I have to give myself credit because if you go to my video when I went through the mock drafts, I was a person who picked up Horn Jr. with our last pick. And I told you guys, I said, keep this guy on your radar. he is going to be sneaky and he will fit our scheme. And I still don't think people realize what he's going to do for this team, especially in special teams. I'm telling you, not one, not two, but I'm calling for it now. He'll have three like highlight big plays on special teams this year, whether it's from a punt return or a kick return, where he's really going to make a statement and really help us on the field. So just tune into that. Remember, I said that he won't have like three big plays this year on special teams. Remember, I said that he will have three big plays at least on special teams this year. I promise you that. So I love that we're excited for Renfro and Jimmy Horn Jr. and I expect some more great things to come. All right, so just some key takeaways from injury status for a couple of our players. DJ Wan is still out. He had a back flare up, and I just want him to take the time that he needs and just be ready for training camp. Whatever is going on with DJ Wan, he missed a whole lot of last year, but when he came back, I think in those last 8 games, he had 4 sacks. So we're definitely going to need him back and healthy. So whatever is going on, just take your time and come back when you're ready. Tommy Tremble, he had a successful back surgery and should be back at training camp. So they finally sat him down and got that back surgery. Dave Canales said, he's young. He's young. He has a lot of football left. So this is something they wanted to get ahead on and go ahead and take care of. So from right now, Tommy Tremble will be out, but we expect him to be back by training camp. Taylor Moton was sidelined as a precaution. I wasn't able to find out exactly why, but from Dave Canales, it's nothing major. It's just more of a precaution to sit him down and let him rest up and heal just a little bit more before he gets back out there. So, I don't think there's nothing really too concerning to look out here. He'll be back. Derek Brown is back in action. In the early of OTAs, he was sitting out on the sideline, but now he is back in the drills. He is back moving. I saw his clip. He looks strong. He looks big. He looks strong. He looks fast. I, I, I wouldn't say fast. He looks strong. I think he's still. You can tell that he's just coming back. All right, that's what I'm getting out of him. You can tell that there's a little bit of rust. A little bit labored in his movements, nothing too serious, but I think it's just naturally the process. But he still has another 100 days before the season starts. So, I have really no concerns there. And Jayla Coker, he was out with some soft tissue damage, but I believe he's back in play as well. So, usually soft tissue is something with the legs. So, he probably had a small tweaker there, but I believe he is now back in action as well. So those are my biggest takeaways from OTAs thus far. Let me guys know in the comments, how are you guys feeling out of the OTAs? What are you most excited about, and what concerns you the most? I want to hear from you guys, Parents and Nation. I'm really really excited. I am leaning towards the more optimistic side when it comes to this team, just because the culture has shifted, the mindset, and you can really, the culture has shifted when players are in separate interviews and they're kind of echoing the same sentiment. They're echoing the same stuff. They're all talking about the fact of being focused. They're all talking about the being in year 2 of this playbook. You see players like Adam Thielen. Thielen wanted to go to the Chiefs. All right, he already came out reported that last year. He wanted to go to the Chiefs when he left the Vikings, and he was on thinking about retirement, but it was the fact of what he's seen out of this staff and this culture that has brought him back. He wants to be a part of this. Players like Horn came out when he's having that extension talk. He said, "Man, Carolina is definitely where I want to be. I want to be here to where we are taking that next step. I feel like we're on that on the cups of doing that, and I don't want to go anywhere." So when you have players saying that, it just has our fans, our fan base really excited, and I expect great things in the future. So yeah, just let me know, man, what you guys think in the comments. And I enjoyed this episode, and I will see you back very, very shortly. And without further ado, until next time, go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is your boy P Way with Inside P Town. And like I always say, with everything you do, make sure you do it with love. Peace.